Welcome to Curious City, the podcast from Glasgow Life Museums. I'm Alan Braidwood and this is how it works. In each episode, we head out into Glasgow discovering the stories that surround us. This time, we're at the Burrell Collection to discover what the museum tours are all about. We'll hear from some of the tour guides themselves, who tell us why they spend their own time to share the museum stories with the rest of us. We'll also hear from Isla Barry, who coordinates the whole operation, and also from some of the visitors who've been on the tours, and they tell us what they think of them. Let's go and meet them now.
The volunteers tell us that when they come into the Burrell, they just leave their lives behind them and the stresses of work or families, and they just come in and they have a really nice time walking around with new people and telling them about objects. I think that's a really lovely thing, and I think it's really nice for the visitor and having that human experience, because our volunteer guides really are interesting and they are lovely to talk to. So I would encourage anybody to come for a guided tour at the Burrell.
Can I have your attention, please? This is a visitor announcement. There will be a free guided tour leaving from your reception desk in 5 minutes. That is a free...
My name's Isla Barry. I am the Volunteer and Placement Coordinator for Glasgow Museums. I also oversee employability, and what that means is that anybody who's volunteering across our 10 venues are in programmes that I oversee. I also look after university placements, college placements and employability programmes such as high schools.
How long's the programme been running for?
We've had volunteers in Glasgow Museums for over 40 years across our main venues, Kelvin Grove, Riverside, Burrell Collection, Gallery of Modern Art.
So the service has been running tours for 40 years. What kind of numbers are we talking? How many volunteer guides would be available across the museums?
We have over 100 volunteers across our 4 main venues every year who deliver volunteer guided tours, but we also have other types of volunteering like learning and access volunteers, volunteers who help with some of our community engagement with older people and who are welcoming visitors in our venues at events.
We're speaking in the Burrell today. How many volunteers do you have here?
In the Burrell, we usually have about 115 a year. We try and offer a really diverse programme for some who want to give us long-term commitment, but for some people who want to just come and develop some skills, give something back, be part of an event. So we try and create a programme that's available for all.
Did you say 115 individuals?
Yeah, 115 people give up their time to come and be a part of the Burrell and the events that we do. It's incredible.
What's in it for them? Why would you give up your time to be a volunteer tour guide?
I think that there are loads of reasons why people would want to come. They either want to come and see what it's like to work in a museum, they might have an interest in the arts, or they might be facing retirement and thinking, actually, what am I going to do with my time now? How can I get involved in a longer term programme, somewhere that's close to home, a lovely place and with lovely objects?
Is there a type of kind of person, or is it quite a wide group of diverse people who come to be guides?
Traditionally, I think we attracted a lot of white-collar professionals that were retiring, but now really it's a very diverse programme. Lots of different languages spoken, lots of different reasons for coming to volunteer, and also their availability is different. But we're a service that runs 7 days a week so that we can accommodate people and their availability.
How many tours do you do in a year? Do you have a sense of what those kind of numbers are?
Between 1 and 3 tours a day. Obviously in our busier periods, then the volunteers really step up and we can meet the visitor needs, because these tours are for drop-in visitors. So they're for people that are just coming to the museum for the day in small groups or family groups or just by themselves, and they want to know more about the building.
So if you were just coming in, say for example the Burrell, because that's where we are today, and you saw what was happening, do you have to book a place beforehand? How do you take part?
No, it's really easy. You just go and ask at reception. We also have some tannoy announcements to let people know. You just meet at reception, you'll meet with a volunteer guide, they'll give you an introduction and off you go.
Are all the tours the same, or are there ones which are more specific to, say, painting or sculpture?
When a volunteer joins, they're given a volunteer mentor who's an experienced member of the team, and they're asked to look at the top 30 objects that we have in the collection as are represented on our website. They choose from those top 30 objects the ones that they want to create a tour with, so it's about 12 to 15 objects, and we try and encourage them to go broadly across the collections and also broadly across the museum. Once they are quite comfortable with that tour, they're then free to choose whichever objects appeal to them, whichever genres appeal, and they can then add that into their tour. And I think that's one of the beauties of the tours that we have, is that you can come as a visitor and go on 4 different tours and have 4 very different experiences.
It sounds like it's quite a responsibility, because effectively you might be a volunteer guide, but you are the face of the museum to somebody who might be coming along. Is there a learning process or a training process behind that to help people get up to speed?
Yes, there is. The experienced mentors will go through things like presentation skills, voice projection, also like different ways of welcoming visitors. But our curatorial staff have given lots of materials and learning tools across to the volunteers so they can learn at their own pace and they can learn with the objects that appeal to them, and then they're fully supported within their group group. The volunteers meet 10 months of the year, once a month. They get together, they look at research, they revisit objects, they maybe look at trends that are happening in the sector, and then at the end of the meeting they have a bit of a social with coffee and cake. And so it's a really nice sociable group, and it's a really nice way to be a part of one of our civic museums in the city, and also just keep that learning and keep making new friends and keep being a part of something that's really a beautiful place to be. We have younger volunteers who come in. I mean, obviously being a tour guide is generally quite a longer term commitment, but we've had some family volunteering, and we've also had younger volunteers coming in and learning about one object and doing a one object talk. So it means that they don't have to learn the broad spectrum of the collection, but it means that they can hone in on one thing that they enjoy and really develop those skills. And working with our experienced volunteers, they then get to develop some of their skills, such as presentation skills, and maybe learn a little bit, develop some confidence.
If somebody has never been to one before and you're a bit intimidated, what would you say to somebody who's never taken part?
I'd really encourage people to give it a try. You don't have to stay for the full tour. You can leave at any point that suits you. But our volunteers are really warm, friendly people. It's not an academic tour. There's lots of really interesting anecdotes, and there's lots of really nice pieces of information that they tell you throughout the tour. But it's just a lovely way to get to know the collections that actually belong to the people of Glasgow.
So Isla, if somebody was listening to this and they wanted to get involved and consider being a volunteer guide themselves, how would they go about that?
We have a volunteer database on the Glasgow Life website. Just go on, register there, and then when any opportunities are released, you can sign up. Do though, feel free to go into our venues and leave your name with reception, and they'll pass that over to us in the team, and we will contact you and let you know when the next training dates are.
That is a free guided tour leaving from the session exit in 5 minutes. All welcome, thank you.
It was great to hear from Isla there and find out how she makes everything work. Next, we're going to hear from Vincent McHugh, who's been a guide here at the Burrell for 12 years, and he's going to tell us what it means to him.
My name's Vincent McHugh. I'm a volunteer guide. I've been here 12 plus years, and I just love what I do. I only do 1.5 hour a week. The guides are all there to help one another, and it's a fabulous community. Really, we meet once a month, and it's great. I love Glasgow. Volunteering, you learn something new every day. It's a never-ending education, and people ask you questions, which is fabulous. And it's not artistic questions, it can be any question. It makes life interesting. If there is a guided tour, go on a guided tour. It's personal. You might disagree with people, which happens all the time, which is good. And people educate you more than you'll ever know. And just listening to them, I think it makes it worthwhile. I like Rodin's sculpture with the war in 1870, Prussia and France. But it's very visceral and it's very appealing. It's someone begging for help. I ask people what they think of something, a sculpture or a painting or anything, because getting their opinion's worth its weight in gold. And when I ask people about this one sculpture, the Call to Arms, some people say it reminds them of Gaza, it reminds them of the Ukraine. That's important because it brings life back into, even though a collection is 3,000 to 5,000 year old to the Glasgow boys, it's great that we can see it all. All the guides are here to help. If you come in at any time, there's about 2 or 3 tours a day, and just ask somebody. They want people to be guides, and they want to help you. It's like sometimes you don't know something about a piece of Chinese porcelain. There's somebody there that will say, that's Ming, that's Tang. Everybody wants to help you. That's the thing about life. They want to help you in life. I was in the building trade, supplying building materials throughout Glasgow, and it was good. But before I retired, even 10 years before I retired, I wanted to be involved in the guiding, especially in the art galleries or the Burrell. I grew up in Anderson. Anderson's, Billy Connolly called it, quaint fishing village in the Clyde. It was anything but. I liked the art galleries. My mum and dad would take me there in the 1950s and 60s, and that was important. Everybody loves the art galleries. That's one of the things Glasgow's got. 5 or 10 years ago, there was a little badge came out. And in the 1980s, it was Glasgow Smiles Better. Then this other one came out, and I've got a little badge still at home. It says, people make Glasgow. And that's what it's all about. The people of Glasgow are the best. But Burrell had a social conscience and he gave it to Glasgow. If you bought a work of art a day for 25 years, every single day, never missed one, you won't equal the collection. He didn't want publicity. There's not even one painting, there's a photograph of him. He was never putting himself forward. It was always, as he said, the collection's important. It's not me. It's kind of Glasgow.
Thanks to Vincent there for sharing all his thoughts and stories with us. While I've been here, I've been speaking to some of the visitors and finding out what they make of the guided tours, and also if they'd recommend them to their pals. On one of the tours I joined, one of the guides joined it too, to find out about a hearing device which is available for anyone to use. Let's hear about what they all say. So we're just standing outside the Burrell and I'm speaking to
Vicky Potts.
Vicky. You've just finished a tour with Vincent McHugh today. Can you just tell us what it was like, what you thought of it?
It was fantastic. I hadn't been here since it opened, so that was a very long time ago. And I was just blown away just by the variety of different objects that was there. And Vincent was so knowledgeable and had lots of little stories about objects you might even have walked past and not noticed. So it was great to see and hear his insight.
Did you have a favourite one today?
I love the stained glass. Just that's something that I enjoy looking at. I get a lot of pleasure out of that. So just all the different pieces of stained glass was really interesting.
What's it you get out of it?
I think there's something beautiful about the colours, especially when they're all lit up, and just, thinking about what it would have taken all those years ago to, solder and make those images, and, that told a story when maybe people couldn't read and write. So, yeah.
How did you hear about the tour?
My sister has been here many times and she mentioned it was definitely worthwhile going on one of the tours because you get a lot more out of the visit, and I'm really glad that we did because it was a great experience this morning.
If you were to say to somebody who's never been on one before, why should you come along?
Even if you're not arty or you don't think that it would be up your street, I think there's just things in there that make you think about things, especially our past and our history and what they were capable of creating all those years ago. And there's such a variety. I think you'd be hard pressed not to find something that you loved there.
Hello, I'm a guide at the Burrell and I've come in today to hear a talk about mothers and other women about objects in the Burrell, but I was particularly interested in trying the new hearing aids that we have at the Burrell, which are really excellent. I'd only ever had a demonstration before, but I'm actually wearing one and I can hear the guide just as if she was talking to me by my side. So clear, no hissing, nothing to distract you, so really, really good.
So if I was coming on to one of the tours, how would I find out about it or how would I manage to get hold of one?
Well, the great thing is to ring the Burrell and the people on the desk, they know everything that's happening that day. They will tell you what activities are on that day. I particularly wanted this one, so they told me about it and made up my mind to come.
What was it about this one today that made you want to come along?
Well, it's a long story. I got another car and so I've been practicing with it. But I just wanted to come back over to the Burrell. But I shall be in next week giving a tour myself.
What will that tour next week be about?
Right, I always like to start at the Warwick vase because I'm so impressed with it. And the story behind it is so interesting. And it just lights you up, especially when you come into what I call the atrium. I don't know if it is an atrium, but that's what I call an atrium. The colour of the Dumfriesshire red sandstone, although it's actually pink, but they call it red. So it's lovely.
Is that your favourite object, the Warwick vase?
Well, yes, it really is. Although I love Rembrandt's self-portrait as well. When we talk about prices of things in here, the modern prices are millions. But when Sir William Burrell bought things in the 30s and 40s and 20s even, the prices were very much less.
So I'm Patricia. I came today because I hadn't been in a long time and I just found it so interesting. The tour guide was very informative and learnt loads. And obviously about the family, didn't realise the treatment of the daughter. And I'd definitely come back because there's so much more to see.
What was your favourite bit today?
The bit about the nuns.
And why was that?
Well, I was educated in a convent school and obviously assumed that people went to a nunnery because they had a calling, but didn't realise if you were within a family and a spare daughter that you were sent there or sent her to a nunnery. So I found that fascinating.
If you were to say to one of your friends or somebody who's not been here before, would you recommend coming on one of them?
Oh, 100%, definitely.
Can I just ask, did you know about it beforehand, or did you just pop in and think, oh, you heard about it?
No, I knew about it beforehand because I used to work along the road and came when it first opened and then sort of fell away because I moved away from the city.
And for yourself, sir, is there one thing that you like to do that you enjoyed the most, perhaps?
I just getting information about where things came from and what the family were like. I didn't know anything about the family, and that was one of the most interesting. But if you came and just wandered about, you see all the objects, fascinating. But getting to know the background definitely helps it.
Would you be encouraged to go and listen to one of those tours in, like, say, Kelvin Grove or Riverside?
We spoke about going to Kelvin Grove. Yeah, definitely. I've thoroughly enjoyed it and would go to the other ones with a guided tour.
I'd like to thank Glasgow Council for keeping it going anyway. Fantastic.
Definitely, yeah.
Great to hear from some of the visitors there and how they got on being on one of the tours. This time, we've been at the Burrell, finding out about the free daily guided tours, all the details of which are on the Curious City website, where it shows you how you can come along and take part. If you've not joined one so far, I'd really recommend it. While making this episode and being on a tour, I've discovered stories about the objects in the collection I'd never have known about. It's a bit like being shown around the museum by a friend who tells the best stories, and it's a great way to keep cosy and spend an hour. That's it for this episode. Huge thanks to Isla, Vincent and the visitors who shared their experiences. See you next time on Curious City.